Kain is deified. The clans tell tales of him. Few know the truth. He was mortal once, as were we all.
How you doing, kids? Today I'm going to explain why we need another game about vampires in today's world. Make sure to subscribe and like, because there are many interesting things coming up on my channel. The Legacy of Kain series consists of 5 games released from 1996 to 2003. They can all be classified as adventure-action games, with gameplay based on a mix of battles, exploration of the game world, and puzzle solving. The first parts of the series, Blood Omen and Soul River, had a Zelda-like structure of the world. Players could move around freely, but closed areas became accessible only after the hero gained new skills. In subsequent parts, the developers moved to a more linear narrative and divided the plot into chapters. The plot is one of the main strengths of Legacy of Kain, and it's not surprising much of it was created under the guidance of Amy Hennig, known to modern gamers primarily for her work on the plot of first 3 parts of Uncharted. However, despite all the advantages, it's not easy to understand the story. The main motif of the story that set the tone of the narration is a confrontation between vampires, Kain and Raziel. But the hero's time travels and attempts to change the course of history reveal deeper them. The blurring of the boundaries between good and evil, the illusory nature of free will, due to the constant jumps of Raziel and Kain through the pages of Nazgûl's history, and the several temporal paradoxes they created. The narrative inevitably splits into a series of parallel timelines. Even picturing them graphically is not that simple, let one detailing all the twists and turns of the plot within one video. Another undeniable advantage of the series is everything related to its sound component, the soundtrack and voice acting. One of the most famous musical themes of the series, Other Midrashim, also known as Raziel theme, was composed by Kurt Harland, a member of American synth-pop group Information Society. The sound component's integrity is also supported by the voice acting. All the main characters, with rare exceptions, were voiced by the same actors. The most recognizable, of course, are the voice of Kain Raziel and the Elder God. Blood Omen was released on PlayStation and PC and was well received by both players and the press. The focus on a more mature audience paid off. The game was praised for its excellent storyline and voice acting, interesting gameplay innovations, and well-crafted world. Blood Omen Legacy of Kain managed to lay a strong foundation for the entire series. Before the development of the next game began, the relationship between developer Silicon Knights and publisher Crystal Dynamics soured, and the latter won the rights to the series in a legal dispute. Crystal Dynamics was working on a project called Shifter at the time, an adventure-action game about a fallen angel who fed on souls and could move between dimensions. After some time, the developers were instructed to tie this project to the Legacy of Kain universe. Soul River's story takes place about 1,500 years after the first game. Kain rules the remains of the Withering World with his vampires' army. One thriving lands of Nazgûl now resemble a wasteland. He is assisted in his rule by 6 loyal lieutenants, with Raziel being the eldest among them. Like all vampires, the sons of Kain evolve over time, acquiring new abilities. Raziel managed to grow his wings before his brothers, and even before his lord. Envious Kain in anger breaks Raziel's wings and throws him into the lake of death, dooming him to centuries of suffering and pain. The Raziel comes on his sense and seeks revenge. In his journey, Raziel deals with former brothers who have turned into horrific monsters. By consuming their souls, he acquires new abilities. From a technical standpoint, Legacy of Kain Soul River was a groundbreaking game for its time, and it is still considered one of the most advanced games on the PlayStation 1. And the developers not only managed to create seamless game world, but also implemented a changing geometry of the environment in it. When Raziel transitioned from the material world to the spectral one and back, game objects changed their shape and size. And then a sequel was released, and they went back in time. And then a sequel to the first part was made. But it was a prequel to Soul River. However, the action takes place not within the main timeline, but in an alternative timeline created by a temporal paradox at the end of Soul River 2. But I don't want to focus on the subsequent games right now, as explaining what happened there would take us an eternity. Maybe the next time. And then, Legacy of Kain Defiance gives series fans the first opportunity to play as both Raziel and Kain in one game. The game was released in late 2003 and was well received by the series fans, with many still considering it the best entry in series. However, the market did not receive the game very well, and this is likely what caused the long hiatus that still continues to this day. The first attempt to revive the series came with Legacy of Kain: The Dark Prophecy. Development began on the game immediately after Defiance 2004. Ritual Entertainment, under the supervision of Crystal Dynamics, worked on the game for 6 months. But Hades ultimately cancelled the project. Another attempt to revive the series came during the launch of the PC4. The game Legacy of Kain: Dead Sun was developed from 2010 to 2012, was intended to be a launch title for the PlayStation 4. The story of Dead Sun took place in a very distant future of Nazgûl, and there were no familiar characters in it. However, the project was never officially announced, and Square Enix secretly cancelled development. Nazgûl was announced in 2013 as a standalone project set in the Legacy of Kain universe. The game had no story to speak of, but chronologically, it took place before the events of Soul River, between Raziel's execution and subsequent restitution. Nazgûl was a team-based free-to-play multiplayer game with asymmetrical gameplay. Players could choose to play as either humans or vampires, each with unique abilities and vastly different gameplay style. In early 2016, Nazgûl entered the open beta testing phase on PC. The game was immediately met with criticism from players, mainly due to its loose connection to the Legacy of Kain universe. Fans were disappointed because they loved Legacy of Kain for its strong storytelling elements, narrative, dialogue, and performance of the voice actor. A third-person multiplayer shooter was the last thing what fans of the series wanted. As a result, in 2016, Nazgûl was cancelled without ever leaving the beta testing phase or reaching a formal release. Recently, there has been a lot of activity online regarding the fate of the Legacy of Kain. In 2017, Crystal Dynamics' Twitter account unexpectedly posted a series of tweets about the first games in the series, Blood Omen and Soul River. Many fans saw this as a hint of continuation or a reboot, but unfortunately the story has not developed any further. Michael Brinker, the lead designer, commented in an interview with Australian website Finder about whether there any chance of seeing a new game in the Legacy of Kain series. He stated that chances were about 50-50. Really? Kids, come on. It's like seeing a dragon walking a corgi in the neighbor's yard. If we think about it, does the Legacy of Kain series really need a continuation? After all, in Defiance, the story of Raziel and Kain came to its conclusion. The people who created it are now working for other companies, and can a new game after so many years generate the same interest among players as the previous installments of the series did? In such a situation, reboot of the series might be the right approach. Keep the same story and characters, but optimize the graphics and gameplay for modern consoles and PCs, because the atmospheres of these games is alive and will never die. What do you think, folks? Am I wrong or right? Maybe we should revive some other series instead.